Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Definitely Podcast. I'm your host, Jose, and with me are two of my buddies, Pwnz
Hey yo.
and my buddy Tarzan here.
How's it going, everyone?
So, given that last episode we briefly talked about my history of being deaf and so on, and my relation to video games, I figured I'd open up today's episode by asking Pwnz and Tarzan your guys' experience with video games and disability and accessibility as a whole. So, Pwnz, why don't you start us off?
Well, I've been playing games since I was like 4 years old. I started with the Super Nintendo and just kept going from there. N64, PlayStation 2. Nowadays, I mostly just play on the PC. When it comes to accessibility or anything related to disabilities, I've never really had any interactions with it. I don't think I've known any people with. I've known some, but like not in the close group friends circle.
With the exception of me.
Well, I was gonna say you're probably the first I've ever had in like my inner circle who's had an actual disability.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tarzan?
I've probably been gaming since about like 5 years old. Had a Game Boy. My dad got a computer around when I was 7, and since then I've always been on a computer playing video games. So yeah, long time gamer. Probably will be all my life. As far as disabilities, I've never had any disabilities, like how Jose has, deafness. But there was a point in my life where I dislocated my shoulder because I was playing sports in high school. And yeah, I remember like not really doing anything for about 2 months, So definitely around that time, I wasn't gaming. I wasn't really doing much at all except resting and, trying to stave off the pain. As far as accessibility, definitely at that time I wasn't doing anything or playing. But I've never really had any disabilities, so otherwise I'm always gaming and playing.
Nice, awesome. We're going to be talking about Battle Royale games, how they deal with accessibility. But before that, I want to get into some brief background information. For the uninitiated, the CVA was created to, quote, make sure that federal accessibility laws created in the 80s and 90s are updated to include the new digital and communications technologies that we have today. Now, the thing to know was that at the start of 2019, the video game industry is required by law to make video games and devices they are playing on to be accessible to people with disabilities. So when Apex came out, right off the bat, that's the first thing you see when the game is booted up. And in their features, they have a colorblind mode, they have subtitles, they give you the ability to adjust the subtitle size. And they have something that really surprised me. Not only do they have voice narration and hint text boxes, so basically captioning what the characters in game are saying, but they actually have something for when other players are talking to each other. They have voice chat that is converted to text, and any text messages that people type in game can be translated into speech text through an AI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even see that, and I've played it a bunch.
Yeah, because the three of us have played Apex quite a bit, and one thing that I actually like especially is that with Apex, pinging is a big part of communicating with your team. Not only can you ping, you can ping not only where an enemy is located, you can also ping to where you believe an enemy was at, where you're going, and all this gets said by your in-game character as well.
Yeah, so it's already all built in, which is pretty good for the user. And yeah, dude, like I was actually going to say, when you brought up the accessibility feature, I didn't even know about it till you mentioned it. So now I'm seeing it and I'm learning about it. And then I see it right here that has the subtitles too. And I've been seeing some people that stream the game or record Apex. They'll have their characters as the events are going on. The text will come up right below them. So I didn't even know how they were doing that, but it's pretty cool. That's pretty simple to access it like that.
I think a common issue we sometimes run into with video games that they don't have those accessibility features. But I think on top of that, sometimes you have those features, but people aren't used to it, that they don't take advantage of it and use it regularly. Because I know sometimes when the three of us are playing Apex, we talked about there's an enemy right there, but we don't always ping it.
Yeah.
Actually, are those features on as soon as you start playing?
No, you have to turn them on. I'm looking at it right now. At the very bottom, to the options, convert incoming voice to chat text, which is pretty cool. So like anyone speaking, you'll see it at least as text. This would definitely help, deaf people or people that just don't want to, they want to filter out voices anyways and maybe just read versus like, hearing your teammate saying dumb things or anything else like that.
I kind of want to.
But then also there's also the play incoming text chat as speech. So you can do it like either version, which is pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
You think it will pick up on cusses and stuff that we use?
I've actually used it. From my experience, speech to text can use some work. I feel with some parts it does it well because there are instances where the game is showing me that the mic is active on a particular player, but I don't get any text. So I'm not sure if they're not being loud enough or if they're cussing. I think one thing I would like us to try out on top of Apex, we're going to be trying out 2 other games, and then we're probably going to take a break and then really finish up with the commentary with that.
Is this the thing where you want us to also turn off the audio to get the full experience?
Yeah, because just a quick recap for you, Tarzan, because I'm not sure if I ever told you this of how the specifics of my deafness, where I have no hearing whatsoever with my right ear, and I have high frequency hearing loss with my left. So the way I'm able to kind of hear you guys talking now is I wear my hearing aids, I increase the volume you guys output through Discord, and that's how we can kind of do this podcast here. But with Apex, an issue that I commonly deal with, or any video game, is where if I hear a sound, I don't know where that sound is coming from. And what I tend to do is end up having my character stand still, and I move the camera to tell and figure out where the sound is coming from. For a fast paced game like Apex, that puts you at a huge disadvantage. That you're a sitting duck if you try doing that.
Right.
Yeah, and so the other games I want to talk about is Fortnite, which made quite a bit of big splash. And what they have is that they have a colorblind mode, and unlike Apex, they build upon that where you have a colorblind strength meter that you can toggle left and right to kind of adjust to your specific blindness. They also have this awesome feature that I love, which is they provide visual cues for sound effects. So when you play the game, you are shown not just visual cues for footsteps, but also the sound the chest generates and gunfire. Not only that, it actually tells you where those sounds are coming from. So like for me, that is an awesome feature to have that I wish other games would have.
That's cool. I mean,
and
go ahead, Pwnz.
I was gonna ask, Fortnite come out before 2019?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I think it's because 2018 coming to a near end.
Just in case.
Yeah, just in case, because the last thing any developer wants is to be hit with fines. And with Fortnite, whenever you turn on the settings for visual cues, the audio is automatically turned off by the game itself.
Oh.
Yeah, that way your in-person using those features doesn't have the advantage over other players.
Dude, that's smart. That's literally the complaint I was reading earlier. Someone suggesting visual cues for sound in games, specifically Players Unknown. Well, I can say I'm not looking forward to playing Players Unknown because I played a little bit and
One thing that's interesting that they have a quick chat wheel where you have icons that display like medical assistance, a shield potion, and so on and so forth, but they only show up as a chat bubble on your character. So if you're not looking at your teammate's character, you don't know what they're actually saying. So I feel it would have been much better if they would have had it turn into a text message where it's not just an icon that provides a visual cue, but also a text cue that your teammates can see on screen. But not only that, one thing that I really love is that locations can be marked on the map. And when you mark it, everyone on your team can see that mark on your map, but also they see a pillar of light and a marker indicator telling you how far you are from that ping location.
Wait, you mean this in
Fortnite?
That's also in Fortnite? I mean, I haven't played it in a while, so shit.
I think they added it recently, right?
Maybe, yeah. It's a really big game, so I mean, if they're gonna comply with the law that Jose brought up, then yeah, they definitely would have to add it.
No, but I'm pretty sure I read that the pinging system was specifically added because of Apex. Like as soon as Apex came out and they implemented the pinging system, they pretty much copied it. In addition to adding teammate revival.
No way.
Yeah, they added revival.
That's bull. I didn't even know that. That's stupid.
We'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
And speaking of Battle Royales, I kind of want to transition over to the other Battle Royale game that people widely know besides Apex and Fortnite, and that is PUBG.
Hell yeah.
And when we did a quick research, we found that PUBG really has no accessibility features. In fact, Pwnz, didn't you say you found something from a player that they were complaining that they wish PUBG have accessibility features?
Oh yeah, you told me to take a look at it. I tried, and literally the only thing I could find was colorblind mode, and so I wasn't sure if it was me or it was the game. So I was trying to find accessibility online to see if there was anything about it on the subject, and I only really found like one post on like Steam where there was a deaf person was asking or like wishing that there was accessibility for deaf, like visual cues for like steps and up gunfire. They mentioned that there's on the mobile version of Players Unknown, and I would have to find out if this is actually true, but supposedly on the mobile version you can see where gunfire is coming from, and so he was asking for that. And the only response he got was someone was saying that it was a bad idea to have those accessibility features because it would give players an advantage.
And what are you guys' thoughts with that?
I mean, honestly, I think PUBG in general needs to pick up some slack. But yeah, this would be one of the things that would really help if they made their game more accessible. Because I was playing it, like you told me, and I only played one round. It went on forever. But it is really bare bones. I just felt like it was really stripped down of any features.
True. I mean, I remember playing pub, so I mean, I remember how much more intense everything was. I mean, I know there's a lot more camping and a lot more you really listening for footsteps or the gunshots or like the car coming from the distance. Or yeah, and like everyone just like wanted to listen and make sure like there's no one in the fucking upstairs. You know, like every time you went to a second floor, it's like, wait, is someone above me? I just heard a door. You're always tripping out on the littlest things. But that being said, I mean, the only issue I see with just completely outright adopting Apex's system, which is an awesome system, not just for the hearing impaired, but just for everyone. It's really like I think like it's something that's very essential to that shooting genre, and it just fits and works for everybody. But like back to the point, like I don't see if PUBG was just to up and use that format, it just seems like stealing, just like how you mentioned that Fortnite's already doing that. I already see that as a kind of like a little bit, how do we add this feature that everyone likes and enjoys without just feeling like we're ripping it off, you know?
Yeah, I guess in the case of players unknown, I can see why just copy pasting might not be a good idea.
Yeah.
I can't blame PUBG for not copying Fortnite, but it would be nice if they did add some accessibility features. Like they could come up with their own solutions to these problems, because Fortnite and Apex aren't perfect in their approach to accessibility. Like you've been telling us some little mistakes that they made.
Yeah, but I feel when you have companies start working on these accessibility features, the biggest problem that we have right now is that there is no standard when it comes to accessibility in video games, because you don't really have people that really devoted that much time to it.
Yeah, especially if like you said this law was like out a while ago, but if the video game companies weren't complying with it
until the start of this year.
Very recently, yeah. Honestly, like that's not even really something I've ever really noticed or focused on, you know. So I can see why it's gone so long, you know, without anything happening.
That's why I thought it was a pretty big deal that when Apex came out, they had an accessibility options tab on the start screen of the game. So if you want to use these features, you can set them up right from the very beginning.
Yeah, that's already very user friendly. Just have it at the get-go. I mean, I just feel like anyone that's already hearing impaired or has any of those kind of little disabilities, I feel like you already kind of know to look for those things as well.
Actually, yeah, when you start a game, Jose, do you always check for accessibility?
Yeah, that's the first thing that I always check for, like option of mono features in the game. And for me, I always do that. With certain games, they don't have that anymore, because why would you use mono when you have the benefit of stereo where you can get much more in depth in terms of audio? But for me, if only one sound is being brought to the right headphone, then I miss out on it, or it comes off through the feedback loop that some headphones kind of give.
So I guess to touch back onto Apex, Jose, so I guess overall, what would you see as, I guess, the biggest success for them doing the accessibility features?
I would say with Apex, their biggest success has got to be using the speech-to-text feature, because I'm actually curious to see how, when we do test it out, what it's going to look like.
Oh, that might be interesting. So like you want to go 3-man in there, but with that feature turned on?
Yeah,
I'm down for that.
I kind of want to see what it'll be like for us to try to be more active in using those pings. I don't know, Tarzan, do you feel like you use the pings in Apex?
I mean, I could definitely utilize them better. I do use them. But yeah, it's an awesome feature though. I mean, I think they had that also in Battlefield, but definitely not to the level they are in Apex. Yeah. Apex has it way more down. Like I would argue at the moment they are the standard for sure.
I remember Battlefield where you could highlight the objectives and stuff.
Yeah, the tanks or the capture points or anything. That was awesome. That was really cool. But Apex, nah, they took it way beyond that.
Yeah.
I think what Apex really does very well is they took the foresight to think this through, because I feel like those ping system is a core mechanic to the game. You're not a good player unless you're properly pinging.
Yeah, gear, items, any of that stuff.
Yeah, if you open up your own inventory menu, you can ping like stocks, scopes, clips, and so on. If you ping them on your inventory menu, it tells your teammates what you're looking for.
Yeah, I'm surprised how extensive it is, because I know I need to get better with it because I've had a lot of times when we're playing and I'll say something like, hey, Jose, we need to head over that way. And you literally yell at me to like, well, just ping it then. And I'm like, oh shit, my bad. And then I immediately ping it right after. But I'm pretty bad at using the pinging system. But the few times I have used it, I'm surprised how extensive it is because I have used it to request ammo, like specific ammo. And I've had scenarios where they actually, even like strangers online will give me what I'm asking for.
We've all had instances where we play with random players online and where we don't use voice chat because oftentimes you don't want to talk to some random people who may be a little kid screaming on the mic or some dude where he's just getting super angry throughout the entire match because you didn't do this or that correctly.
It's definitely something that's worrisome or on the mind.
You're lucky. I get that a lot.
I mean, I definitely get it now and then, but on Apex, I think I've only gone through it once so far, like a real one. Just some dude tripping out because, you know, I wasn't quick enough to the fight or whatever. No, it's just okay.
What is it like for you guys whenever you play with other players and you don't communicate with voice chat?
So just to go back to the pinging system, honestly, I can go through this game without ever having to say a word sometimes because everyone pings correctly, or, you know, the second an enemy's somewhere, you know, people are saying like, oh, it's over here, and you naturally see it on the mini map and on your HUD while you're playing, so you just look at the direction and start running towards it or get a good angle, you know. So the pinging system makes that need for communication not always necessary. It's always good, and it's always good for clarification or for getting something conveyed faster than just, you know, like random pings. But as far as for the fighting and just where you want to get to, honestly, I can do that and not even say a word, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, actually, I have to agree with that. I honestly hate voice communication systems in the game itself. Like, I used to have to use it a lot in Overwatch, especially in ranked matches, where you had to use the voice because if you didn't, no one knew what was going on. But it just, I don't know, I never felt comfortable. And then now that Apex is out and they have the pinging system, I feel a lot more comfortable communicating with the other players through this system. That way I don't have to actually say anything. Or, you know, I don't know, maybe it's just kind of antisocial, but I feel like this thing that was designed for accessibility is actually helping everyone out.
So how you agreed with my comment, I definitely agree with that. Having this kind of feature isn't just good for, you know, people that need the text feature to understand the game better, like the text to speak or the speak to text. It's good for everybody, you know. All the little benefits in the end are going to benefit more people of, you know, just in any regard. Everyone wins.
That's why I'm actually really pro accessibility, because the more I notice it, the more I see that it's benefits everyone. And I don't know, it's really good design. They could be implemented in more games.
I feel that sometimes when we've had instances where me and Tarzan or even me and Pwnzworth are just playing with the two of us, where we're communicating with voice chat, but the third person isn't, and oftentimes what I would see would happen is that the two of us would be formulating some type of plan, but then our third person is off doing their own thing because they don't know that we're following an unspoken plan that we never discussed with them.
That being said, we kind of know what the other person may do in a certain situation, or we kind of expect, you know, like how to follow each other now. You know, it's kind of like a given that once we understand the game, then we start coordinating better. And it definitely shows. You know, we only started playing Apex, a month ago, maybe? I mean, you guys longer. I'm probably in at least a month, but I've definitely seen notable changes in our play style over the course of just this month. You know, I've definitely gotten better. I'm more confident in fights and stuff. You know, there's times where you guys can solo people, even two people at a time. You know, that's definitely improvement where like we would just run around and get killed 10 seconds into landing, you know?
In every game that we played, I typically get designated as a sniper because that's always been my playstyle. I like using a sniper rifle. I've used it in Halo heavily. I've used it in Battlefield. And I become the designated sniper within a group of friends.
Actually, now I think about it, is that at all related to your deafness as a sniper? Because you rely more on your visual perception?
Yeah, I guess that kind of goes back to a little bit, simply because when I snipe, I have full view of the whole map. Because often when we used to play Battlefield, 2, 3, and 4, I would always hang back and I would snipe from a very far distance. And I think I remember I actually stole one of your kills, Tarzan.
In the end, you stole everyone's kills once you got better. But yeah, you definitely stole a couple of my kills every now and then.
Yeah, I remember that was like your big thing, was every game was sniping.
Yeah, Jose was the resident sniper and spawn person, because like I remembered in Battlefield 4 specifically where if you set up the spawn beacon at a certain high angle, your character after dying would spawn in on a parachute, and that was always fun. You could always get a good flank or you just spread out and take the field, and like us as a team, like we would slowly turn the tide of battle doing dumb things like that. Yeah, I think we're kind of like slowly sliding off topic, so I'll kind of like push it back to Jose to get us on track.
Actually, but Battlefield is somewhat good for accessibility too.
The pinging, like what we're talking
Yeah.
about, like definitely, like if you wanted to ping, take this, or like, hey, there's an enemy over here. I remember there was those slight little pings, especially like Jose as a sniper. You would
Yeah.
definitely like guide us going forward with the way you would say like, hey, there's an enemy like 100 meters ahead. I'll ping him, and we'd see the red dot. That would always help a lot of the times. We get to jump on them versus them like waiting for us.
And building on top of that, I feel that when it comes to even coming up with accessibility features, you need to take the style of game into account, because even though Apex, Fortnite, and PUBG, they're all battle royale games, the gameplay is vastly different between the three of them. Apex feels much more like Overwatch, where you have different characters with different abilities and put them in the battle royale scenario. For Fortnite, you have the building aspect, and that makes that gameplay very different. And PUBG is more like your standard battle royale, because it was the game that came up before Apex and Fortnite. So out of all the games, this is the only game where you can crawl. So I would crawl and hide in grass and then detect where a sound is coming from, and then I would play more stealthily.
But it worked. I mean, definitely in Battlefield and even in PUBG, like the whole chilling and waiting, or like playing to your strengths as far as like like using your hearing.
Yeah.
Those kind of games, they were definitely slower paced games too. I think sniping's good early in Apex, but as the game goes on, it's probably not as good. But again, there's people that are good regardless.
I do think you bring up a good point about that, Jose, that every game's different. Like, it kind of makes me concerned that there can't really be a universal law for accessibility or universal design for accessibility.
A universal standard?
Yeah, there you go. A universal standard for accessibility, because there's so many different game types and each one presents its own specific challenges to being accessible. I think this is a good topic though, because these are three games that are essentially the same type of game with some big differences.
Their own spin.
Yeah. I don't know. It makes me think like if we down the line we could look at some other genres, maybe like MOBAs or.
Oh, we definitely will for a future episode.
Okay, nice.
I mean, what's funny though? MOBAs are rooted back in like earlier 2000s, so I mean, they definitely were probably not compliant at all. And some of them, like Dota, would be even before that law was even drafted.
I was just thinking we're gonna have to play Dota.
As a quick sidebar here, I feel that with League of Legends, Dota 2, and Heroes of the Storm, because of their gameplay style, they are much more accessible to a deaf person, because audio information isn't the actual critical thing needed to play the game properly. You have their own pinging system, they have text communications, and you have a minimap where you can not only see your teammates, but also enemy team members on the minimap the moment they are spotted by other players.
I guess that's true. Yeah, there's a ton of visual information that would make it easier for a deaf person.
But before we wrap things up, do you guys have anything you guys want to talk about with Apex, Fortnite, or PUBG?
How much of those games do you want us to play? Like, is there a specific number of rounds you want us to play, or?
What we're going to do is that we're going to take a time to play each game.
If it makes it any easier, we could do a day where the three of us play.
Fortnite. and I was gonna say, like, if one of us records it, we can definitely use that.
Yeah, actually, one thing I'm planning on doing is I'm planning on actually streaming the games where all three of us are playing to Twitch.
Oh, nice.
That's always good.
Yeah, because I've actually gone ahead to create an official Twitch channel for the Definitely website and the Definitely podcast. For any games that we talk about in terms of accessibility, those are the games that I'll start streaming on Twitch, and I'll try to see if I can set up a consistent schedule.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Are we gonna play those games in deaf mode, or?
I think what will be best is that we play each of these games for a bit without those features, and then do a couple of matches throughout the week where those features are turned on. And we'll see what it's like to play these games and communicate with one another without talking to each other.
Okay, I'm down for that.
Can we laugh? That's my only question, and that's a legit question.
We can laugh.
All right, cool.
If it ultimately helps with the experiment, I'm down to not have any audio. It sounds hard, but it'll be a good experience.
And of course, we got to be very clear that simply doing this does not equate to actually spending your whole life being deaf. We don't want to get that misunderstood.
No, yeah, we're not trying to imply anything with.
What I'm hoping to do with this podcast is essentially spread awareness and give people who aren't aware, like Tarzan and Pwnz, a chance to know what it's like to play video games with particular disability. And for any future podcasts where we cover other disabilities, what I'm hoping to do is have someone with that particular disability come in and talk. But
yeah, I think something cool to do too, Jose, as just something to I guess cement the end of a podcast is, like, I guess whoever the guests are, or even you, just give a shout out or like a recommendation to the audience, like something to do or something to look into, or just like even like something to support. And if you don't mind me going first, I'll just shout out the YouTube channel that me and everyone else has. So it's called Day Job Gamers. You can look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, anything that we talked about, I'll provide links. So I guess that's going to be it for today. I want to thank Tarzan and Pwnz for coming on today.
Yeah, no problem. I'll be back anytime.
I actually really enjoy being here.
Yeah, good. It's good chatting about these things, It gives me perspective, and you always learn something, and I definitely learned a little bit today.
Yeah, you guys will be able to find us on our YouTube channel at Deaf and Nerdy and our Facebook at deafandnerdy.com. Feel free to just Google Deaf and Nerdy and you'll be able to find some content with us. So have a good night.
Awesome. All right.
Later, guys. Take it easy.